All right, let's dive into one of Fyodor Dostoevsky's earliest and frankly weirdest works, the novella The Landlady. Published way back in 1847, this story is a straight-up psychological fever dream. It's all about obsession, trauma, and what happens when a life of pure intellect smashes into the messy, chaotic reality of human passion. And it all boils down to one simple but powerful question.
So what does happen when a man of books is forced to try and read people? The entire story hangs on this idea. We're about to meet a scholar who has built his entire world inside the four walls of his room, and that world is about to get completely blown apart by forces he can't even begin to understand, let alone control.
Meet Vasily Ordonov. He's a young scholar, but probably not the kind you're picturing. For years, this guy has lived in almost total isolation. He's shut out all the noise, all the chaos, all the life of Saint Petersburg. His room, it's not just a home, it's his fortress, his sanctuary, and honestly, it's his prison, all rolled into one.
Ordonov's entire identity, his whole being, is wrapped up in his academic work. He's driven by this passion for science. But here's the catch. It isn't some organized, disciplined thing. It's a feverish, all-consuming obsession that has left him completely useless at dealing with the real world. He gets theories, he gets ideas, but people, nope, they are a total mystery.
And at the very heart of this isolation is his life's work. Ordonov is creating his own system of knowledge. And yeah, it's brilliant and original, but it's also chaotic and completely self-destructive. The book actually calls his science a weapon turned against himself. He can feel this incredible creative power building up inside him, but he's so cut off from reality, he has no idea how to let it out. He's basically a genius trapped in his own head. And then, bam, the real world comes knocking. His landlady moves, and just like that, his little monastic cell, his safe space, is gone. He's forced out of his quiet little bubble and shoved right into the one thing he spent years trying to avoid, the loud, overwhelming streets of the city.
You know, at first, it's a shock to the system, but in a good way. For a guy who has only lived through books, the raw, unfiltered energy of the city is mind-blowing. He sees the faces, he hears the chatter, and he feels this strange new energy. He's kind of like a tourist in his own town.
And for just a brief second, we see this little glimmer of what could be. Ordonov feels a connection, a sense of hope. The world suddenly seems full of possibilities, and he feels a lightness he's never, ever known before. He's this close to actually waking up and joining the world.
But that hope, it doesn't last. As quickly as it came, it gets completely crushed by this devastating realization. He's an outsider here. He has no idea how to talk to people, how to connect, how to love or be loved. The vibrant city suddenly becomes a giant mirror, just showing him how totally and completely alone he is. And that feeling just comes crashing down on him.
So, totally lost in his own head, he just wanders. He has no destination. His features carry him to the edge of the city, to this quiet, dimly lit neighborhood church. The service is already over, the place is practically empty. And it's right here, in this fading light, that his entire life is about to get turned upside down. He sees two people, and he just can't look away. There's an old man, Murin, who's tall and severe-looking, with his fiery, intense gaze. And with him is a young woman, Katerina. She's stunningly beautiful, but her face is just filled with this deep, almost childlike fear. The contrast between them is immediate, and it's just unsettling.
As they're standing there in front of an icon, the woman, Katerina, starts to weep. It's not a loud cry, just this quiet, muffled sob that completely cuts through the silence of the church. Ordonov is mesmerized. He doesn't have a clue what her pain is about, but he feels this immediate magnetic pull towards it. He just has to know more.
And in that moment, his rational, scholarly brain just switches off. This obsessive impulse completely takes over. He has to know who they are. So he follows them, right out of the church and through the dark streets like a shadow drawn to their mystery. This is really the first big step in his downward spiral.
The next day, it is full-on obsession mode. He abandons the new room he had just found, tracks down their building, and pretty much demands they rent him a room. I mean, think about how manic that is. Murin, the old man, is clearly hostile and wants nothing to do with him. But Katerina, she gives this strange look, and she agrees. She'll rent him a corner of their tiny apartment. He has just forced his way into their world.
And the second he moves in, his fragile mind just shatters. The shock of his own actions, the intensity of this new situation, it's all way too much. The life he knew is over. As the book says, it feels broken in the middle. He has crossed a line,
and there is absolutely no going back. His mind and his body just give out. He collapses into a severe fever, a delirium that goes on for days. But this isn't just a physical sickness, it's a complete psychological breakdown. The line between what's real and what's a nightmare just completely dissolves.
And in this fever, his subconscious is just laid bare for all to see. He's having these haunting visions of his past, his childhood, his mother, but it's all twisted together with these terrifying images of crumbling cities, and always the menacing figure of the old man, Murin, just watching him. It's a total storm of memory and fear.
He finally comes out of the delirium, and the very first thing he sees is Katerina's face. Turns out, she's been nursing him back to health. Her care is gentle, almost motherly, but there's also this immediate, startling intimacy between them. For Ordonov, a guy who has never known any kind of closeness, this is completely disorienting and totally intoxicating. So in the weird intimacy of his recovery, their bond starts to deepen. Katerina sees a kind of kindred spirit in this lonely scholar, and she finally begins to unburden her soul. She starts to tell him her story, a dark, fragmented, tragic tale that explains all the sorrow he saw in that church. Her story comes tumbling out in this rush of traumatic memories. It starts one stormy night when Murin, the sinister figure from her family's past, just shows up. That same night, a suspicious fire breaks out at her father's factory, and her father is killed. Murin then spirits her away from the chaos, claiming he's her savior. Sometime later, her old fiancé, Alyosha, tries to rescue her. They have a confrontation on a river during another storm, and in all the chaos, Alyosha drowns. It's just a complete nightmare of violence, loss, and control. And this is the terrible, twisted heart of it all. This is the confession that explains everything. Katerina isn't just Murin's captive. She is bound to him by this incredibly complex, toxic bond. She tells Ordonov that the true poison is that she loves her own ruin. She finds a dark joy in her submission to this man who destroyed her life. So she's trapped not just by fear, but by a self-destructive passion. This leaves Ordonov and us with one final haunting question. He walked into this world a man of pure intellect, a total stranger to passion, and now he's absolutely drowning in it, both his own obsession and Katerina's darkness. Dostoevsky gives us no easy answers, leaving us to wonder, when a mind that has only known the safety of ideas is confronted with the beautiful, terrifying power of the human soul, which one is going to survive?